Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Here, ITV News has learned that children at more than 1,000 nurseries across England are being exposed to dangerous levels of pollution. A study found they were situated close to roads which breach limits for nitrogen oxide. The fumes can cause chronic health conditions like asthma, which last a lifetime. Our health editor Rachel Younger has this special report.
Nursery today, you're going to see all your friends.
Going to nursery is meant to be one of life's adventures. Instead, it's leaving some children with lifelong health problems. Young lungs are particularly vulnerable to polluted air, and here in Dudley, that's exactly what they're breathing in.
The traffic's terrible on this road. You can be stuck in traffic on this road for 20 minutes to half an hour just coming from the end of the street.
And just how many children are being affected comes as no surprise to some.
Asthma is on the increase. We had 3 children that were diagnosed with asthma when we opened up in 2014. To date, we have 17 children who have got diagnosed and are with inhalers.
Greenpeace analysed local authority data to find out how many nurseries are within 150 metres of roads where the air pollution breaks the legal annual limit of nitrogen dioxide. That's 40 micrograms per cubic metre of air. Not surprisingly, most of them are in London, 761 in all. Shockingly, 20 of those are close to roads where pollution is double the legal limit. But the problem stretches far beyond the capital. In Birmingham, there are 39 nurseries close to roads which breach the limit. In Plymouth, 10, and in Manchester, 8. And as respiratory clinics like this one know, the consequences can last a lifetime.
Big. Well, breathing in soot and nitrogen dioxide is getting deep into the lungs of children and affecting lung development. And that means that as an adult, your lungs are not in the best of condition, and we see in adulthood diseases appearing later on as well.
The team behind the study believe only an immediate switch from diesel to electric vehicles will change things. So what can monitors like this one tell us about the quality of the air we breathe?
So 90% of this kind of pollution on our roads is coming from diesel vehicles. And we also now know that diesel vehicles are giving out a lot more pollution than they say they do. We know that new cars are producing up to 15 times more pollution than they say on the label.
The government's been ordered by the courts to come up with a new plan on air quality by the end of the month. But for many children, the damage is already done. Rachel Younger, ITV News, Dudley.
Well, several of England's worst affected cities are already trying to tackle the growing pollution problem. And today, London's mayor announced the start of the world's tightest emission standards in the capital. Our consumer editor, Chris Troy, is in central London for us tonight. Chris, this is being called a toxic charge. How will it help?
Well, it's intended to have an impact in places like this. You can probably see it is one of the most polluted roads in the entire country. In fact, some campaigners around here say just by breathing here, you're undergoing a health hazard. But just like the buses on this route, the anti-pollution policies seem to come along all at once, starting later this month when the government will unveil its own anti-pollution policy. Then, in October, new £10 charges for the most polluting vehicles coming into London. Then by April 2019, that scheme will be extended. It will cost £12.50 and encompass more and more vehicles, especially diesel. But it's not just about London. 5 other cities around the country are now actively working on their own clean air zones. Those cities are Birmingham, Leeds, Nottingham, Derby and Southampton. So change is coming, and millions of motorists will feel that change very often in their wallets.
OK, Chris, thanks very much.
Now, it is billed as the most ambitious and the toughest anti-pollution plan the world has ever seen. Polluting vehicles will have to pay between £12.50 and £100 to enter central London in an effort to tackle the toxic gases that are threatening our health. London Mayor Sadiq Khan unveiled plans for an ultra-low emission zone. By 2019, all but the newest diesel vehicles entering the existing congestion charging zone would pay an additional £12.50. He also plans to expand this zone as far as the north and south circular roads for heavy vehicles by 2020, for cars by 2021. But there's more. In the coming days, the government is expected to publish plans for clean air zones in as many as 35 major towns and cities across the UK. Charging schemes for public and private vehicles are likely to form a major part of local authorities' plans. Our science editor, Tom Clark, has this report.
We've known about the danger of traffic pollution for years, particularly for children. It's bad for lungs, hearts, possibly even brains. So why is air quality in Britain the worst in Western Europe? And why are we only taking it seriously now?
If we could see traffic pollution, maybe we'd think very differently about it. Well, with a specialist camera, we can. This one measures carbon dioxide. It's on my breath. And also, when you burn fuel, and mixed in with the carbon dioxide is nitrogen dioxide and soot that's so toxic to human health.
The camera is normally used to detect industrial leaks.
What you can see here now with the camera, as the cars are coming past, you'll see in the actual CO2 plumes coming out of the exhaust. And what we're using is background infrared energy being absorbed by that.
What it reveals, say from this lorry's roof-level exhaust, is how great a share of our air is toxic gas.
You can't see it, but the air in London at the moment is a killer.
Today, the Mayor of London unveiled plans for the world's strictest diesel pollution zone. But I asked him about the rest of the country.
I'm saying to the government, you need to step up and do much more. They need to have a national diesel scrappage fund. They need to give serious resources and power to local government. They need to reform the vehicle excise duty, and they need a new Clean Air Act for purpose for the 21st century.
In the coming days, the government is expected to launch plans for clean air zones across towns and cities in the UK. This school in Northampton is on a major road into the city. Not far from here last summer was the most polluted road in the UK. Britain's parents are worried, and rightly so.
We moved here from Kettering and it wasn't that busy, and since moving here their chests have been worse. They used to suffer with asthma when they were little, but we've noticed that's coming back.
Campaigners would welcome a clampdown on polluting vehicles, but say local authorities need to be able to offer incentives as well as penalties, and that could take a new Clean Air Act.
An essential component of such an act should be to empower local authorities by giving them the leadership and also the resources to be able to have the confidence and the funding to invest in cycling and walking infrastructure, and also projects to support families so they feel confident to use that infrastructure.
Sustrans are working with 10 schools in the London borough of Lambeth to try and improve children's school journeys, walking or biking, rather than dropping off in the car. This family tries to cycle every day.
And I'm very much aware that some parents have to drive their kids to school just because of their work circumstances. But yeah, it gets very clogged up. The road we live on gets very clogged up by traffic. So I think it's important that we've got access to safe cycling routes so people can cycle rather than take a car.
The air quality around our school is in like the top 5% of the worst air quality in London.
The project is also trying to use kids as a route to educating their parents. It's a sign of the kind of towns and cities we live in that air pollution is now a legitimate topic of primary school fieldwork.
So who's going to help me?
Me.
Yeah.
Using these diffusion tubes, this project has revealed that air in 8 out of 9 schools studied breaks legal nitrogen dioxide limits. These kids can't see the air pollution, but have no doubts as to where it's coming from. What do you think the air's like here?
I feel like it's dirtier because this is a very busy road, and cars they are the main they are the main thing that make air pollution like dirty.
And really sharp and keep it going for a really
Last year, the Royal College of Paediatrics estimated 40,000 excess deaths a year are attributable to bad air, particularly for those with existing lung conditions. And much of the damage happens in childhood.
Towards the end, push.
push.
The author of that report sees patients at this lung function clinic at the Royal London Hospital.
We know that air pollution, especially from diesel here in London, is associated with reduced lung growth in all children, healthy or not. And the reason we focused on diesel is that they produce disproportionately more gases and particles than other vehicles, and it's a low-hanging fruit. I mean, it's the first thing that we have to address. Clearly there are many other things that need to be done, but if we can't deal with the diesel emissions from our ageing diesel fleet currently, I don't think we are going to be very seriously addressing this problem.
In a statement, DEFRA told us it would be publishing plans to improve the nation's air quality shortly. But the challenge the government faces is that for a decade, tax policies have led drivers to buy diesel cars. There are now 12 million diesel private cars alone on UK roads. Phasing them out quickly could either be very expensive or very unfair on consumers who are encouraged by government to buy them.
Tom Clark. Well, joining me now is James Thornton, the CEO of Client Earth, David King, former government chief scientific advisor, and Howard Cox from the Fair Fuel campaign. Welcome to you all, gentlemen. Let me start with you, David King. You were the former chief scientific advisor. How could you have got it so wrong?
Well, I think we got it wrong principally because we were convinced that the industry was going to produce the catalysts and trap systems that would remove all the noxious gas from the back end of cars. I actually went along to laboratories, checked out, talked to the scientists.
Well, you did while you were there? Or, I mean, still, so you saw the scientific evidence?
Oh, yes. And I saw cars under test. And under these test conditions, they were eliminating a very large percentage, in particular of the NOx gases that we're now talking about, but also C2.5 particulate matter. So looking at the whole, diesel is a real challenge. It's more challenging than petrol because the smoke particles have to be trapped as well as getting rid of the nitrogen
So you're
oxide.
blaming the car industry for misleading you? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not entirely blaming the car industry. We know that VW actually has been at fault, but the car industry have played the game of the way the tests are conducted. So the tests are conducted under lab conditions, not under road conditions, at least for cars, not for heavy-duty vehicles.
But you gave it your scientific imprimatur.
Right.
And on the basis of that, people like me bought very expensive diesel vehicles because we thought we were doing the right thing. The government encouraged us to do this, and now we're being punished for it. It's outrageous.
It's outrageous that many people are dying early because of the NOx fumes, and I think
that's even more outrageous.
Exactly.
But it's all outrageous.
It's all outrageous. But I think the most important point I want to get across is heavy-duty vehicles are tested on the road, and heavy-duty vehicles per kilometre travelled produce less NOx, half as much NOx as the average diesel-driven car.
Howard Cox, you have called this plan put in place by the mayor pathologically unfair and dishonest. Absolutely. I mean, these are very strong words, but at the end of the day, as you heard David King say there, I mean, I'm going to be taking a financial hit. I'm upset about it, but at the end of the day, by putting in these regulations, we are saving lives.
Well, I don't actually totally agree with that because I actually dispute the figures. But from a point of view of actually whose fault it was, the actual testing was done under government watch and government and the EU. So who's to blame here and who should be compensating diesel drivers like your good self, who has paid out good money on this money on the promise of actually lowering greenhouse gases? And what we're seeing now is NOx is the big enemy, and now diesel drivers are being demonised. It is totally and utterly unfair on them. And to actually make them pay £24 to come into the town to work is ridiculous.
So what do you think should happen? Compensation?
Yeah, well, compensation would be wonderful, but what you need incentives to actually make them move to cleaner fuels. And it shouldn't be paid for by the taxpayer. It should be paid for by the manufacturer.
OK, James Thornton, I mean, we're all blaming diesel now. Diesel is the big enemy. We're going to take a financial hit on this. People are dying. Children are unhealthy as a result. But let's not forget the fact that the reason why diesel was encouraged in the first place is because it was good for the planet, better for the planet than, as it turns out, it is for us.
It was thought to be better for the planet, and that turned out to be a mistake in that people are an important part of the planet. So science advances. We now know we have to clean it up. There's just no way around this. And the question is, How can we clean it up? How fast can we clean it up? In London, 10,000 people a year are dying early of air pollution. In the nation, 40,000. If this were cholera, if that number of people were dying of cholera, we wouldn't be arguing about what to do. We'd say, we'll do anything to save those people. And here, the adjustments that need to be made are pretty reasonable. For example, you can have scrappage schemes that buy back the dirty vehicles, and that will help people.
But did you, at the time when these, when diesel was being encouraged, did you ever think, well, this is better for the planet, but it might be bad for human beings who live on the planet?
I always thought it was bad for people,
Did you speak up about it at the time?
I wasn't in this country at the time. I would have spoken up about it.
David King, it does seem extraordinary that on something as fundamental as this, cars who are used by millions of people every single day in these highly populated areas like London, that we can make such colossal mistakes. We're talking about people's livelihoods here, and more importantly, about their health and their lives. It's astonishing.
And the peculiar thing is, the real mistake is the methodology for testing. And it's taken us a very long time to understand this. We understood that London was suffering from high NOx levels before we understood what the reasoning was behind this.
Is it really that we're that far behind the science, the actual science of it? I mean,
well,
isn't this something that was discovered a long time ago?
Let me stress this point. Diesel is not the real problem. The problem is the catalyst and trap system in your exhaust.
So when did we first know that?
Well, we first knew this a couple of years ago now. So we've known that very specifically for a while. And I think that the real problem now is, of course, we've got millions of diesel-driven vehicles on the road in this country. And my feeling is we have to deal with the health of the population as a priority. So I fully agree with that.
You can't argue with that, can you, Howard?
No, I'm not going to argue about that. And bear in mind, drivers want cleaner air. They have children who have asthma too. All these things are important. But why tax them off the road? It won't work. I mean, the London Assembly, the Sadiq Khan's own figures tell us that 11% of NOx emissions in London are down to diesel cars. That means roughly 90% aren't. But 100% of the payment is going to come from drivers.
But what we know in London is that 50% of the NOx is coming from diesel vehicles. So all diesel vehicles
buses and taxis.
All diesel vehicles. So the plan, which the mayor is putting out, needs to be increased and amplified.
And cab drivers are exempt, right? Black cabs are exempt from this.
And they...
So what's the logic of that?
But not Uber drivers.
Not Uber drivers. But the problem for cab drivers is that they actually suffer from this pollution more than anybody because they're sitting in it all day. The guy or the woman that drives the white van is suffering terribly, and they need our help. And that's why we sued the government, to force the government to bring in regulations to move us in the right direction. We had a disastrous love affair with diesel. It's time to walk away from diesel.
Will you say sorry?
I don't think anyone needs to say sorry, because I think that we understood the problems of diesel, we understood why these problems existed, but we also believed that we had a system for eliminating the problem.
But poor government policy is being paid for by diesel drivers.
All right, we've run out of time. David King, Howard Cox, James Fenton, thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you.
I've been getting away with it all